Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from and who were well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say shalom. Come to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. And the title for this is going to be Jake has been conditioned to take the motb by gradualism. And what is that motb? It's the micro C-hip spoken about in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16, which is that charagma, which that's the Greek word for that word mark in the Greek. And basically that's what you're going to have to take to be grafted into the self-proclaimed white man, Esau Edom's new incoming digital system that's going to be ran by the way of CBDCs through AI, that only those who take that motb, which is the charagma spoken about in Revelation 16 and verse 13, that if you don't have or Salakia in chapter 13 verse 16, and if you don't have that charagma, then you're not going to be able to buy and sell. And our people are so accustomed to being fed, being taken care of by this beast system, that when that motb gets presented to Jake, which is the nation of Israel comprised of these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, they're going to take it without hesitating, because they already been conditioned by the way of these smartphones, these computers, everything going digital, from people no longer using cash to buy and sell, to get certain services using credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, Cash App, and all sorts of manners of electronic payments that are gonna lead our people to take that motb. 2/3 of the nation of Israel that comprise of these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because they already been conditioned through gradualism. So by the time it gets presented, they're gonna take it without having a second thought. Especially when times get hard and you're not able to eat or drink any water, or Esau Edom makes you homeless. The only solution that he's going to offer is that motb, and that's going to be the savior to a lot of our people, 2/3 of the nation of Israel, because when their ribs are touching their stomach, then that's where they're going to take it, because they're not going to have any choice. They don't have faith, they don't have trust in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to keep them, because when the prophets were out here warning you about what was about to come upon the planet Earth from the mass implementation of the motb, Jacob's trouble, famine of food and water, they were out here playing around thinking that all these events, all these prophecies were never going to come to pass. So when it does come to pass, and they see it, and it's right in front of their faces, they're going to remember about all the words that were being spoken about by the prophets through Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, because ultimately is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai that puts it upon our spirits to speak these words to the nation of Israel. It's not of our own. Is through the Rakakwadash, which is the Holy Spirit, that we're able to break these scriptures down. But it's only going to be plain to the elect. To the rest of the nation of Israel is going to be a stumbling block. That's why these other Israelite camps, these Christian churches, they can't really break down what the motb is. And even if you tell them, plain and simple of what it is, they can't get it. They're rejected, because ultimately it wasn't given unto them to get the true breakdown of Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. That's why when it gets presented, they're going to go and take it without hesitation, because in their minds, they're going to think, hey, this isn't the MOTB, this is something else. But to the elect, we're going to know, hey, this is the MOTB. Now if you don't take it, then you're not going to be able to buy or sell. You're not going to be able to keep your job. You're not going to be able to rent a home or buy a house. And we're going to know is the time of the mass implementation of the MOTB, is the time of the hour of temptation. And through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, we're going to know not to take it. We're going to have to go by faith. We're going to have to be homeless. Some of us are going to have to forsake our families. And even some of our families, they're going to go down and take it to be able to eat. Because when you take food, when you take the bread and circus away from people, then that's when they start to lose their minds. And it's going to get to that point sooner than later, because we're seeing the current dollar, the US dollar, which is a fiat currency. It's not really backed up by anything, that is crashing down, that all these countries are doing away with the dollar. You got Russia, China, established BRICS, so they can have their own form of currency. And these are all signs and tokens that this economy is about to collapse, and the dollar is going to be done away with. And the new system is going to be established by the way of the digital dollar, the MOTB. But us that has been given this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, us are the hopeful elect, we know what this devil, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, is coming down with. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage over us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. So Satan, which is the spiritual demon Satan, but his earthly counterpart is the self-proclaimed white man, Esau, Edom, which is the devil, the word devil means adversary, and he's completely adversary to the nation of Israel. That's why he has pushed out all these forms of witchcraft throughout the planet Earth to deceive the nations, to thinking that they were the real people of the scriptures of the Bible, the true people of the Lord, painted the images in his likeness, like it says in Job chapter 9 and verse 24 and 1 Maccabees chapter 3. That's basically Esau, Edom, tricking the world that they were the true people of the scriptures, but no, they're the Edomites, the nation that is destined to be completely deleted off of the planet Earth, to really be done away with, never to inhabit the earth ever again. But first, they're going to come down with that great wrath, like it says in Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12, because he knows that he has a short time. He knows that he only has a short time to get his NWO up and running. And how is he going to do that? By the way of the MOTB, by the way of the Charagma, like it says in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And he's going to use all these devices against 2/3 of the nation of Israel and these heathens to get it up and running by putting that mark, that MOTB, under your right hand or your forehead. And to 2/3 of our people, they're going to take it because ultimately it wasn't given unto them to wake up to the fact that it's a snare and a trap. And those who take that mark of the nation of Israel, the 2/3, and the rest of these heathens, there's a severe punishment for taking that mark. You're going to get that sore, that cancer, that form of cancer, and eventually those intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is going to be the lake of fire, that second death that is going to be here in the souls of America when those 200 million missiles get shot over here to end that World War III, and to end Esau, Edom's kingdom and his time of rulership upon the planet Earth. This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And it reads, "And he caused it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free in bond to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. And that's what Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, is going to present to the whole world. He's going to present that charagma to every single person upon the planet Earth to take it, to be able to buy and sell. It's just like 5 years ago during the pandemic, the C-19, that was a precursor to get our people and the rest of these heathens conditioned that if you didn't take that, that jump shot, then you weren't going to be able to keep your job, which is going to lead you to not be able to afford groceries or go into these different stores. Because if you didn't have your mask on, you weren't able to enter the grocery store, businesses, schools, hospitals. And then it got to the point where if you didn't have that jump shot, then you weren't able to travel. You weren't able to go around your family members. And it's going to be the same thing in these upcoming times. If you don't have that charagma, the motb, the micro chib, then you're not going to be able to keep a job. You're going to have to leave your job. Your jobs are going to present it. Hey, you got to take this C-hip, micro C-hip, or we're going to fire you. And that's when we're going to know, hey, we're going to have to walk away from all that, walk away from these jobs. And even some of our family members that are going to take it, we're going to have to walk away from them. That is just going to get to that point. Verse 17, and then no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So that's the point. If you don't take that micro C-hip, then you're not going to be able to buy or sell. You're not going to be able to own a home, rent a home. And we're pretty much going to have to be like pilgrims upon the earth, like it says in the Apocrypha. I think it's set in 2nd Esdras. We're going to have to be like pilgrims upon the earth and trust and have faith in Yahweh Shemiel Shai that he's going to be able to provide food, shelter, raiment. Because a lot of our people, they're being deceived by these other Israelite camps, these false prophets in these churches, celebrating Easter and all manners of pagan holidays. They're going to lead our people to take that charagma because they weren't warning the people of what the true breakdown is, what it is, and what's the consequences of taking it. So that's why majority of our people, 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they're going to go down to these C-hipping stations. A lot of our people are going to get put in these detention centers and say, hey, if you don't take this motb, then we're going to have to put you to death. And a lot of our people, just by that, by the threat of being put to death, they're going to take it. They're going to roll up their sleeve. They're going to extend their hand, or put their head down and let them put that micro C-hip in them, because they don't have faith in Yahweh Shemiel Shai. They fear Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, more than what Yahweh Shemiel Shai is going to do. Because there's going to be a severe punishment for turning your back on Yahweh Shemiel Shai and trusting in his devil. This is Sirach chapter 5 and verse 15. Be not ignorant of anything, a great matter or small. And majority of the nation of Israel, 2/3, and even these Israelites that know that they're Israelites in these other camps, they're ignorant in a lot of matters. Like, for example, if you go into the word mark in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16, it'll break it down to you. It said, the Strong's G, the charagma, it tells you what it is. It's going to be a cut or an incision in your hand. I think another word for it is palisade, which is a mark or a cutting. Which, how are they going to implant that motb, the micro C-hip, in your hand or on your forehead? It's going to be by the way of making a cut. But 2/3 of our people, even these Israelites that know that they're Israelites, they deny that fact. They deny going into the words because ultimately they're scared. they're scared of what's about to come upon the planet Earth. All the mass judgment, all the different plagues that are about to come upon the planet Earth, and eventually that lake of fire that's going to be caused by the intercontinental ballistic missiles to end the Third World War. Our people are scared of all these things. That's why they're not willing to accept it. They rather continue to be willfully ignorant, and that's gonna come with a severe punishment. It's gonna come with that second death. This is Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. And who are the prudent of the world right now? Are the hopeful elect, which consists of that 1/3, Lord willing, we're a part of that number. We see the evil. We see that all hell's about to break loose upon the planet Earth. We see that the economy is collapsing and is on a brink of collapsing and all hell breaking loose. People losing their minds. We see that the mass implementation of the motb, the hour of temptation, is close. And therefore, we're hiding under the shadows of the Almighty. We're hiding under the names of Yahweh Bashim Shai. We're going into that strong tower. But what is the rest of our people, the 2/3 of the nation of Israel? They are in the spirit of mirth, in the house of feasting, thinking that all these prophecies are never going to come to pass, that it's far off, that it's tarrying and it's never going to come to pass. But like it says in Habakkuk, though it tarry, wait for it. And we see that it's close. That's why the simple of our people, the 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they're going to take that charagma, they're going to perish, and they're going to get that second death, that lake of fire. Because ultimately they believe, like it says right here in Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 15, the simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. And the simple of our people, all these other Israelite camps that are pushing false doctrine, not breaking down the motb the correct way, their congregation believes them. They believe them that the motb is sin, that the motb is the image of Caesar Borgia, white Jesus, that the motb is an embargo, that the motb is white women. All these manners of madness, of the wrong breakdown of the Revelation chapter 13 and 16 is all madness, is all folly. And therefore, their congregation believes them because they have all this fame, all this wealth. So, ultimately it's a stumbling block unto the 2/3 of the nation of Israel, because the deceived and the deceiver ultimately is Yahweh Bashim Shai, putting it upon the spirit of these Israelite leaders of these other camps and these Christian, so-called Christian churches, Catholic churches, to put it upon the spirit of these false prophets, these false leaders, to break it down the wrong way, because Yahweh Bashim Shai wants them. He wants them punished. He wants them to suffer that second death, because ultimately majority of our people are wicked. So they're going to get that severe punishment for taking the charagma, because he put that spirit upon them. He put that spirit of deep sleep upon 2/3 of the nation of Israel, because he wants them destroyed. And that's what's going to happen. That's why everybody's not meant to get this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in its true 100% form. The sound doctrine, the true doctrine of Yahweh Shai. That's why a lot of Israelites that know that they're Israelites, they stop at the fringes. The main thing they love to preach is about the fringes. Keep every single law, and that's where it stops. They don't have the spirit of Yahweh Shai, the spirit of prophecy. That's why the main thing is prophecy, and that's what the true prophets of Yahweh Bashim Shai will be speaking in these last days. Not to have your fringes on 24/7 and keep 100% of the law, because we can't keep 100% of the law. We can't wear our fringes everywhere, because it's not prudent, it's not wise. And that's why we have Yahweh Shai's blood to cover us, to cover the elect of the nation of Israel. Lord willing, we're a part of that number. That's why we're under grace. But that's something that these other Israelite camps and these churches don't teach. The churches teach the complete opposite, that we're under grace and that you can sin as much as you want because the law is done away with. It is mad. This is 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with a fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And that's what's going to happen. When Yahushua makes his return, he brings his devil down. He destroys his place by the way of his chariots, the heavenly host, who they ignorantly call UFOs. A lot of our people aren't going to expect. They're not going to expect Yahushua to come back in their lifetime. They keep pushing it off to the next generation. But when they take that charagma, the motb, they think that they're good, they're chilling, they're eating, marrying, partying, and drinking, just like in the days of Noah. And then the flood took them. It's going to be the same thing. That fire, that flood by the way of fire is going to take them as well. It's going to destroy them because ultimately they were out here bullshitting. They weren't paying attention. They were too caught up in their folly, too caught up in the house of mirth, out here feasting, having Israelite parties 24/7, celebrating Easter and all manners of madness. They're going to be taken up. They're going to be burned up by the way of the intercontinental ballistic missiles. They're going to be shot over here in the soils of America to utterly destroy 2/3 of the nation of Israel. But that 1/3, that remnant, starting with the 144,000, and the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude, will be delivered because they were taking the grace period seriously, building up their faith, doing things of the spirit, not of the flesh. But that's pretty much the point. Pray this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash. Double honors